Hey everybody, welcome back to Ranching and Roots. So spring has sprung, the grass is really starting to get with it, and we are about halfway through our first rotation. Um, this paddock here, we were in, 6 days ago, and it does not show up on camera very well. But we got a good graze. We only took about 2 inches off of it, and we've already got 4 or 5 inches of growth back. The grass is just now starting to get with it.
So it is April 1st and we are out in the pasture today and we are going to measure some grass. We had a pretty hard freeze a few weeks ago and you can see there's like 4 or 5 inches of grass here that is just dead. But the cows will still eat it, so we're going to measure it anyway and assume a couple extra inches on there, and because it's April 1st and we got to get these cows out on grass. So we are going to use what the New Zealanders call the compression measuring method. So you just put a clipboard or something, not too heavy, on top, and then you measure your grass. So we are about 4.5 inches, so we're well in the graze mark on our stick here. So we are gonna set up some paddocks today and get them started on their first rotations.
Coming all weeds in the yard.
I think they're happy.
The first few days, we really struggled to get the cows to actually move. They would just look at us like, there's green stuff here. Why in the world do we need to move again? And with the sacrificial pastures that we used, we're skipping those in this rotation. So our flow for how they're going is a little different. Well, the main paddock we had a problem with was the one coming out of that I'm sitting in right now. And as you can see, to a cow walking through this gate, it doesn't look like there's a way out. So the ones that are up here by the gate went right through, no problem. But the ones that were kind of over the hill that weren't with the main group, you could not force them through this hole. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing your rotations and setting up your flows, that if you have a gate hole that kind of looks blocked like this, that you're probably going to have a hard time getting cows, and especially baby calves, to go through there. It's going to kind of show you the sacrificial pasture where we fed hay all winter. It's really starting to come back. This pasture's been pretty poor. I'm going to come in and overseed some white clover, and then harrow all this in here this week probably, and try to get a little more legumes established in here, and hopefully all this fertility that we enrolled on this all winter long will have a good effect. Like I said, we're going to skip this sacrificial pasture for at least one rotation. We'll see what it looks like when we come back around. Might skip 2 full rotations and just kind of stockpile it to graze during the summer. So, no, it's hard to see, but it's probably got 3 inches of growth back on it. We've been doing daily rotations with the cows this trip around just to ensure that we're not overgrazing and stunning our grass for later in the year. As you can tell, the baby calves are usually the biggest obstacle while moving the cow mob. We've been grazing this bottom. It was split up into 3 roughly 9 to 10 acre paddocks. We are in the last one now. And as you can see, my mineral feeder, I usually put on the end of the paddock to try to get them to cover as much ground to bait them to the end of the paddock so they'll graze it also. Kind of see the grass. We just come out of this paddock a couple hours ago. Grass does not show up on video that well, but there was a lot of clover in this paddock. As you can tell, the cows are pretty loose because of it. But overall, they were in this paddock for, let's see, about probably close to 30 hours. And I think we got a pretty good graze on it. The fescue that was a little taller, they've grazed pretty close to what they grazed everything else. That freeze that we had that kind of killed 4 or 5 inches of fescue, they really haven't liked grazing it, which it's not green. I don't blame them, I guess, but they actually grazed majority of this off. I mentioned it was hard to get these girls to move the first several days. But as you can see now, we just moved these cows into that paddock 3 hours ago, and they're ready to go again. So that definitely has gotten better as we went. I think there's 65 cows in here. I think all of them have calved, but about 20, and we're kind of in that lull between heats. So hopefully they'll get to going here pretty soon. One thing I have noticed about the rotational grazing, moving these girls every day to new pasture, you want to talk about some happy cows. If you ever seen cows go out on grass, they're all giddy and jumping and acting crazy. They pretty well do that about every move, so they definitely like it. So this is the second time I've had this issue, so I probably know what's causing it. But I'm going to take this valve apart. When I had this issue earlier, of course, this is the first time we're using this system. My valve wasn't shutting off. I was like, what in the world? Well, being the first time we used it, I had rocks. Apparently, when they fused the pipe together to put the stands for the plastic quick couplers, they had some rocks in the pipe. Well, they get shoved in the back of that Joe Megaflow valve, and it won't let it shut off. So I'm going to take this apart, and I would venture to say that's what we're going to find. All right. Sorry, I couldn't show that. Hold on to the camera and mess with all the water and everything going everywhere. But there was indeed a small rock behind the diaphragm in the back of that valve that won't let it close all the way. So hopefully, now that that's gone, our tank's not overflowing. It ought to be good to go. This watering point, as you can see, this fence is on a terrace. So the watering point, I didn't want the watering point in the terrace just for the middle of winter. I thought, not having that much earth over it might freeze. So it's kind of out here in the edge of the field. Well, to keep the cows off the back of the tank, I just tied me a piece of poly, and it's hooked up cold to the fence. But I've done this in these two other paddocks, and it's worked pretty good to keep the cows off the back of the tank. And with the piece of poly over the top of it, they don't seem to fight at the tank that much because they're afraid to touch that wire. So, of course, when your water tank overflows, it makes a muddy mess. I've got some gravel left from the heavy use area projects, and I'm going to come down here and put gravel in these areas also, just to keep it getting so muddy. And of course, all this was excavated to do the watering point and whatnot, so it's all pretty fresh anyhow. So kind of have to hide in the Ranger because the wind is so crazy today. Here's our South Pole bulls. There's 3 more yearlings at the house. We'll be turning these guys out, tail end of June probably. I've been rotating them in front of the cows. They're about, a full half rotation in front of them. It'd be a whole lot easier to keep everything together once they're actually with the cows and don't have to treat them as a separate group.
If you'd like to support us, please like and subscribe.